Hi, how's everybody doing? So I was thinking about something. I heard somebody mention this and it made me think about this soul contracts. So, does anybody know what a soul contract is? The more I've learned about soul contracts, the more I've thought, you know, I kind of think that I believe that that is actually what happens. Like we ask ourselves like why certain things happen with certain people. I'm going to use specifically cuz I think soul contracts are all kinds of contracts. It doesn't have to be romantic. It could be parents and children, grandparents, it could be siblings, it could be, friends, I think coworkers, there's all sorts of soul contracts. But I think the ones that give us the biggest lessons are the romantic soul contracts that we make with somebody. So you may be like, what is she talking about? That's just ridiculous. It's not. Think about this. So let's say, because this is what I believe. I believe we come to the planet with a list of things that we are going to work on so that we can grow. This is our soul. We're with our team, we're with our, angels, our spirit guides, other souls, and we're sitting around, sort of like imagine what you would see at a screenwriting room where everybody's throwing out ideas, right? And all the characters are there, all the cast of characters are there. And you're like, okay, so this is my movie. So, what role are you going to play in my movie? And let's say one of the things that you want to learn in this life, because we're learning these things by having a physical experience, an emotional experience that our spiritual, our soul or our spiritual self wouldn't necessarily be able to achieve without having this soul, growth, this experience. So let's say it was, I want to learn forgiveness in this life. Like I want to really master what that means, right? Because all of the religions, everybody talks about forgiveness, forgiving yourself, forgiving the act, forgiving what happened, to not hold on to it. That's not saying that whatever happened to you is okay, because that's not what I mean. I mean, like you're forgiving it so you don't hold on to it, right? You learn how to forgive, to let it go, because you're holding yourself, really, is what you're doing, is you're holding yourself bound to whatever happened or to that person. So we're like, okay, so forgiveness. Okay, great. Everybody's on board. And you're thinking, yeah, what am I going to do? Like 80, 95 to 95 years. I mean, in eternity, that's nothing, right? A Earth year compared to, what we are experiencing over here, which is time in a very different way. Time really, it doesn't exist. So, okay, yeah, forgiveness. So then somebody says, well, okay, so then what I'm going to do is when we're in our late 20s or around 30, we're going to meet, we're going to fall madly in love. And about 10 years into the relationship, I'm going to leave you, either for somebody else or fall out of love or just want to, my life is going in a different trajectory and I'm going to leave you and I'm going to betray you. Let's say I'm going to fall in love with somebody else, right? Then what happens is you going through the experience, and if anybody's listening who has had that happen to them, you're going through the experience and you're like, this lady's effing crazy. What is she talking about? But how else do you learn about forgiveness unless you're betrayed, like betrayed on a level, a deep level? That's why it has to be with a significant relationship, right? Like somebody cuts you off at line at the grocery store, like, you may get pissed off for the moment and you may think that person's rude, but you're not attached to that. You're not holding on to that. You could be like, whatever, move on. But somebody who betrays your trust in such a way that you are like trying to emotionally recover from that, is so deep that it's like unbelievable. It's how do I get past this? So my point is that we make these contracts with other souls because in the soul realm, in the spirit realm, we're on a different level and we're coming here to learn. Like Earth is like school and we're playing out our movie, and everybody has to play a different character in our role. So the only way that we could learn forgiveness is to be betrayed and to have people to forgive. Okay. And that is so significant in our own personal growth, right? So somebody signed up, another soul signed up for you because they love you so much that they're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to play, the asshole in this life. I'm going to play the character of the asshole in this life for you, right? And if you look at it from that perspective, it doesn't necessarily change the hurt and the betrayal that you're feeling, but it makes you think that things are bigger and deeper and than we are led to believe, right? Because if this person who has betrayed you in the physical life is part of your soul family, then of course they're going to play any role you need them to play in this life. And then you guys may switch in another life, right? And that's what happens. And the same thing happens like any kind of an issue that you have. Like, let's say it's abandonment. So abandonment would be like, you're abandoned by your parents, then you're abandoned by your friends, then you're abandoned by your spouse, and so you keep getting abandoned over and over and over again until you can confront and master finding the love within yourself so you don't abandon yourself. And that's what we're really doing. We're finding the love in ourselves so we don't abandon ourselves, because our soul made the decision, okay, these are the hard lessons that I want to have in this experience, in this movie of my life at this time. And then, when your movie is complete and your life is over, you go back and you sit with your team and you say, well, how did we do? And, and it depends on where you are. You may have said, you know what? I didn't get to accomplish what I wanted to. I didn't really learn forgiveness. I went down a road of hurting other people or self-sabotage or, addiction. And I want to try again. That's an option. And then you may be like, okay, you have time to heal. You pick another body, another lifetime, and you have another experience. And, you have your cast of characters who are helping you have that experience. And so I just kind of think that it's an interesting way to consider sometimes some of the things that we see happening, that we know have happened in our own life and that we see happening on a global scale. So maybe when there's a character who is being portrayed on the projection screen in a big way, in a global way, maybe he was cast or she was cast to help the collective consciousness grow in a way that it couldn't without that specific spirit / soul, whatever you want to call it, played the bad guy in that role. Now, that is not excusing behaviors. That is not excusing violence. It's not excusing abuse. It's not excusing all those things. But what it's also doing is not allowing us to be the victim, because we're changing that paradigm. Okay. We're not the victim anymore. Right. So we're learning from these experiences and we don't want to be the victim anymore. So maybe it'll help you not look at yourself as the victim, but as somebody who created a soul contract with somebody to have this experience because you wanted to grow so significantly in this life that you're having a lot of emotional and painful experiences so that you could. And the persons who are causing that love you that much that they would be willing to play the bad guy in your story. I'm just saying, it's a thought. I've heard that before. I remember Wayne Dyer talking about that with his dad, and that really hit home with me, right? So yeah, it's just something to consider thinking about when we talk about soul contracts. So who do you have a soul contract with? And think about how you have played in their story, right? We're always the bad guy in somebody's story, right? And who's been the bad guy in your story? And it may just, you may look at things in a different way. All right. I hope that was helpful, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the channel, and I would love it if you would comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you next time. All right. Bye-bye.